All right, we'll get started. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. Once again, today's topic will be on the Smart Matching and New Documents screen. And I'd like to welcome you back to the Simple Fund 360 Education Week. For those of you that may not be aware, we are running the Simple Fund 360 Education Week this week, which means that we're running multiple webinars during the day, 30-minute webinars on some common issues, common topics that are requested from the clients. So if you're looking for more information on that, I'll just quickly post a link here in the chat in Zoom to the Education Week. If you were looking to register for any of the future webinars, you can do so via that link. Otherwise, the other webinars will become available on the BGL community as well as BGL's YouTube channel once they are fully edited and uploaded. So if you miss one, that's absolutely fine. You can always go back and review these. So as I mentioned, we're approximately a third of the way through the Simple Fund 360 Education Week. You can see the topics up the top that we've already gone through. So today we had the bank data and the share data pack. I am going to be leaning on those particular topics a little bit today, just because they do coincide with the smart matching screen a little bit, but ultimately there isn't too much you need to know. And if you did want to know further, you can always go back and review those webinars as well. But there's definitely a lot of topics that we have to get through for the rest of the week. So first up, some housekeeping matters. You will notice that all attendees are on listen-only mode. However, if you do have any questions, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom to ask those questions. I do have a large number of colleagues here with me from various different teams, the client success, the support team, as well as the product teams directly related with the smart matching and documentation screen. So if you did have any questions to do with any of the topics today, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, there will be a section towards the end of the webinar, approximately 10 minutes or so, where you can also ask some questions there. And as mentioned, this webinar will be recorded and will be uploaded to the BGL community as well as BGL's YouTube channel. As well as all registered attendees will receive an email with a link to the recording along with these slides as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So that's the link for the BGL community if you are after that one, community.bglcorp.com, or you can just simply type into the Google search just BGL community. That also works. So today's webinar will be covering, firstly, the functions on the smart matching screen. I'll be running through the general process of what you can do on the smart matching screen and how it can speed up your processing during the financial year. Effectively, this aims to give you more options in terms of processing your funds, because if you combine this with various different ways of importing data, it means you don't need to manually input each transaction during the year, which means you can spend more time on more important things. In terms of the second topic, that is the new document screen. So we'll be reviewing the new document screen that recently have been released, and I'll just run through some options that are available with that. And finally, the third topic will be talking about some future ideas. So the document screen is very new. However, we're looking to integrate some features of the Smart Docs by BGL, effectively to improve the way that you can send documents to your simple funds. And we'll run through that in the third part of today's webinar. So firstly, the functions of the smart matching screen. Now, I'm not going to run through every single option here, all of these points here on screen, as we'll be doing them in Simple Fund 360. However, I have put them in the slides just so you are aware of them when you actually read through the slides in future, if that was required. But general idea of it is that you can upload bank statements or enter transaction data, and then you can use one of the functions in the smart matching screen to post it to the correct accounts. So as you can see, we have the option to match, search, split, or create matching rules related to that. And as I mentioned, it does seamlessly connect with BGL's bank data service, and I'll explain that once we get into Simple Fund 360. So let's jump over right now. So right here, we're in Simple Fund 360. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. And we're under accounting and smart matching. So this is the smart matching screen here. Currently, there's no data that has been currently added. However, we do have a bank set up. So effectively, you're at the beginning of your reporting period and you're looking to enter some data into the fund. Now, as mentioned in the first webinar, the bank data and entering the bank statements today, we're going to use one of those methods to enter some data for this particular bank. And that is the data entry or import bank statements tool here. I'll click this one, and I'm actually going to open a pre-prepared file. Now, it's very simply made. The format is simply one column with the date, one column with the debits, one column with the credits, and a very simple description of that. All you need to do is you can set up these transactions in this format, select all the data, copy it, select the top left box, and paste it across. So it brings the dates in, the debits, credits, and the description. If the debits and credits were actually incorrectly put, so they're the wrong way around, you can choose to swap those, but those were put incorrectly, so we're leaving it in that way. We did have some questions earlier today about entering in foreign currency and what this particular option was up the top. Now, this data entry tool does have the option to state which currency you are entering into this particular screen. For instance, if we select US dollar, then it's actually going to create this third column here, which is the exchange rate as per the date there, which is then going to automatically convert those values as per that date into Australian dollars. Because ultimately, once the data enters Simple Fund 360, it needs to be in Australian dollars. We currently don't support the foreign currencies. However, we do have this foreign currency conversion tool, and that is what we highly recommend to use if you're uploading foreign currency bank statements and bank transactions. We'll just switch it back to Australian dollars because that's what we're entering. And as we can see, the ticks on the left are all good, which means that we have no errors with these transactions, and we'll click Create. So as you can see, that's entered a bunch of transactions here, and we have a number of things to sort through. What I want to actually show you is exactly what these transactions now look like in the fund. So in the fund, when you actually enter data in that way, they do create transactions in the transaction list. And as you can see, each of these are posted to the bank data clearing account. That is just a suspense or clearing account that is holding the balance for now. And the system is basically expecting you to post that to somewhere else, whether it's an income, expense, liability, another account that's related to that particular transaction. But all of these transactions are unmatched and all of them are sitting to the bank data clearing account. So we're going to go through the process of matching these and posting them to the correct accounts. So on the Smart Matching screen, we'll just get started with these credit interest transactions. So we can see that we have a number of them. So we can search up credit interest and have a look. If you click into one of these transactions, it will actually give you the predicted chart account. So it's predicting that it's going to 25,000 for this particular bank's interest account. And if that's the correct account, you can choose that. Otherwise, you have the option to remove that account and enter the account you wanted to enter. In this case, it was the correct account. So we're going to select that particular interest received account. And we can select this transaction and click match on the right side. Match here or match here, all of them do the same purpose. Now, if we're happy with all of these, we also have the option to match these multiply. So if you click the checkbox up the top, it'll mark all of them, or we can check them individually, one by one, all the ones that we're happy with, and we can click multiple match in the top left. As you can see, they're actually disappeared from this screen now, the credit interest transactions. And if we go back to the transaction list now, and we refresh this one, we can see that now 7 of our transactions are manually matched. So I'm using these filters in the top left to actually view these transactions. If we click that, these are all of our credit interest transactions that are now posting to the 25,000 account, being the interest account for this bank. So to explain the whole process, simply put, the Smart Matching screen is a faster way to select the account you want to post to and have that posting to that particular account, as well as it has the capability to do these in bulk, as opposed to going into each of these transactions, clicking into it, changing the account, and repeating for all the transactions there. So what we're going to do is work through the rest of these transactions, and we're actually going to create a couple matching rules. First of them, we're going to look at the accountancy fees. So here we have accountancy fees here, and we have a certain debit posting to that. If we wanted to create a custom rule, we can choose click Create Custom Rule just here. And as you can see, it brings up another screen for the custom rules. What you can do here is change the conditions for the custom rule, whether it's the description, amount, or a particular date, as well as change the account that the rule is posting to. For this one, I want to actually just search for any transaction that contains accounting fees. And it does actually show the transactions down the bottom, which this applies to. And I want to make sure that it's posting to the accountancy fees account, which is this 30100 account. So once again, selecting the description, selecting the account, you do have some options to apply these rules to all the bank accounts, as well as the option to review these before they're automatically applied. So those options are available to you, but once you're happy with the rule, you can choose to create. And then that has been created and 4 transactions have been matched. So once again, jumping quickly back to the transaction list, you can see there's actually some transactions that are automatically matched by this rule. And all of these ones are the accounting fees transactions. So they have been recognized by the rule that there is a description of accounting fees, and it has posted to the accountancy fees account. If you were having some issues with these matching rules, that is actually managed in the matching rules screen up here. So you have transaction list, matching rules, smart matching, and then matching rules here. And as you can see, we have our accountancy fees rule. If you click into that one, you have the option to adjust it or delete it as necessary. But what we're going to do now is just work through these remaining transactions so that we can move on to the next part. So right here, we have a direct credit being a GPT distribution. We can see that it has selected the 23800 account for GPT. We're happy with that because that's posting to the correct distribution account, so we can just click match. For this next one here, it is a direct credit BGL Super. So we're looking for a contribution, an employer contribution for this particular fund here. You can see it's automatically selected the account John Jones contributions for 24200. If we wanted to change that to the other member, we can actually click the X button, and then we have the option to select either of the members that we have added to the fund here. But we're just going to select John for this one, and we'll make sure as well in the more details section underneath that we have employer contribution selected. So that's very important for a lot of transactions such as sales, contributions, anything to do with income tax. There's the more details section, which will allow you to put that into the proper area, whether it's employer contributions or whether you're selecting a specific parcel, or whether you need to maybe add a supervisory levy to income tax that you're paying. So because this is a direct credit and we're leaving it as an employer contribution, we're happy with this transaction. And there are another bunch of options for contributions as well. So we'll just click match. For this one here, this one's very similar. It's Mary's non-concessional contribution. So what we're going to do is switch that to Mary, and then we'll change that amount down the bottom and put it in the non-concessional section. So we're selecting that. We see the description, what it is, change it to the correct account, make sure the more details are correct, and then we choose to click match. For these two at the bottom here, they're very simply, we have ASIC fees and we have audit fees here. So we could choose to just match those because they have selected the correct account. That can also be seen underneath the predicted chart/rule, as well as the audit fees here as well. Now for the last two, we have a sale and we have some income tax that is being paid. As I mentioned, you can choose to add the supervisory levy in the more details section, how to do that is simply to click on the transaction, make sure it's posting to 85000, which is the income tax payable or refundable account. And then in the more details section here, you have the tax amount refunded or paid. In this case, it's choosing the 8,321 fully paid for that particular financial year. So you can choose the relevant financial year. And if you want to add the supervisory levy, you simply click to fill. That puts $259 here and removes that amount from the amount that is paid for tax. So once you're happy with that, once again, you can click match and move on. And finally, the last option I mentioned was the sale. So if we click into here, we do have another more details section. It's currently chosen the investment account for CBA, which is correct. And if we scroll down, we can see that it's chosen one parcel for 400 units, and we can see the contract date and the details of this particular parcel that was chosen. So that way it allows you to actually manage this, and all of these processes I'm completing would be available on the transaction list screen. However, it would require you to go and click into each transaction and manage those. However, we can just do it on one screen here. So in terms of this one here, we can just review this. We want to sell these 400 units in this particular parcel, so we're happy with that. It has the small section here about the tax implications of the sale. So if you're happy with that, all you need to do is click match. So now that we've actually cleared out this screen, the smart matching screen, we can go back to the transaction list and we can see that no transactions are unmatched anymore. And all of them are either manually matched by us clicking the match button or automatically matched by a matching rule that we have created. So that's the first part. Next up, I'm going to import a couple transactions, and what we're going to do is just talk through the search and the split functions. So these are two slightly more complicated functions that might be required depending on what transactions you're looking to manage. So I'm going to go to the feed management screen. So this is what was set up in the two other webinars today, the bank data and the share data webinars. So we have the bank feed here. I'm just going to re-request transactions here. And we have the contract notes, which I'm also going to re-request. Now, this is just for training purposes. In terms of your own fund, what would likely happen is you would have these bank accounts or contract notes set up, and they would be importing transactions in real time. So they would be slowly filtering into your fund, and you could either manage them on a regular basis on the smart matching screen, or wait for a number of them to be in your fund and manage them all together in bulk. So what we're going to do is go back to the smart matching screen. I'm just going to refresh that. And yes, those transactions have been imported correctly. Now I'm going to pick a couple specific transactions just to explain the search and split function here. Some of them, such as the administration fee, very simply, they don't need to be dealt with in terms of splits or searches, so they just will be regularly matched as if we did the previous transactions. However, one I want to look at here is the purchase of 3 different investments. So we have CRZ, FMG, and BHP. And I want to show you what this looks like in the transaction list as well. So I'm going to go for unmatched transactions, and I'm going to find these transactions here. So these are the 3 transactions we're looking at. We have a purchase of CRZ, a purchase of BHP, and a purchase of FMG. And the bank transaction, so this transaction we see here, I'm actually going to filter so we can actually just look at this. So this transaction, for the total of 136,000, is this transaction here, 136,000. So this amount actually combines all 3 of these purchases. So how do you combine these together? You could, in the transaction list, select all 4 transactions and select to match them together, or you can use what we call the search function. So if we click into this transaction in the smart matching screen, you can see that the search function has found 3 transactions that are an opposing match. We'll click on this, and as you can see, it has found 3 transactions that match up to the correct values. So we have our purchase of BHP, FMG, and CRZ. Now, if you were to unselect these, then you can see there's a shortfall reaching the total value of 136,000. So as you select each of the transactions that relate to this bank transaction, you can see that the shortfall gets lower until it reaches the exact value. So if you have one side importing investment transactions and the other side importing bank transactions, but they both relate to the exact same thing and have the exact same value, then you can use this search function to basically locate both sides of the transaction and combine them together. So we've selected these 3 transactions. All we need to do is click match. And what we'll do is go back to the transaction list as well. I'm just going to refresh this one by refreshing the entire page. And I'll search for this transaction now. So this is the result of us matching using the search function to matching those. It has matched the bank side of 136,000 with these 3 different purchases. So very quickly now, that is the search function. Once again, it's just taking the bank transaction and searching for if there's another side of the transaction that matches that particular one. The other option that we do have is to split. So let me find that particular transaction that we're looking for. Here it is. So we have the personal contribution for both John and Mary. So for this transaction, we want to split this contribution for both of the members. So all we need to do is click on this transaction and select split. This will open up a separate screen where we can select the first account for the split. So we'll select John's account first, and we'll input the amount that needs to go to that account. So we'll say $10,000. Once again, we have the more details section for contributions, and we'll leave that one as, actually we won't leave that one. We'll need to move that to personal concessional, as that's what it says at the top. And once we're happy with that, we can close the more details section, which is this button right here to hide more details. Next up, we will search for the other contributions account to Mary. So that's the other side. So we've split the transaction into 2 separate contributions, and we can change Mary's contribution as well to the concessional side. Now you could split this up into whatever amounts you want. So you can say that is 15,000 on one side, but you need to make sure to update the more details section underneath. In this case, the contributions more section detail actually is combined for the entire transaction. So if you have contributions for 5 different members, the more details section will show 5 different members at all times. That way you can just manage it a bit easier. But I always recommend whenever you change the actual figures for the transaction, just make sure you quickly review the more details section to ensure it's correct. So we've changed that to 5,000. We need to make sure the more details section is correct. So we're happy with that one. We'll just click match. So that is the 2 other functions, the search and the split. So the search effectively searches for matching transactions on the other side. The reason we were able to do that was because we had investment transactions coming from the contract notes service. And so you have the investment side, which is the purchase or the sale, and you have the bank side, which is the cash from the purchase of the sale or the sale, which we then combine together. Otherwise, we have the option for split, which is simply splitting that value up to multiple other accounts. And I can actually just show you that contribution account here. So that transaction that we just did is this 20,000 here, splitting up to 15,000 and 5,000 here. That is a relatively quick overview of the Smart Matching screen. Hopefully it gave you a bit more confidence in that particular screen to actually try out some of these functions, because they can actually speed up your processing overall. I understand it was a bit rushed because we are attempting to get through as much content as we possibly can. However, I do have some helpful links that are in the PowerPoint that will be available to you if you wanted to review those as well at a later time. But very quickly, we're going to jump over to the second part of the presentation, which is the document screen. So we'll jump back in and the document screen here. So very quickly, an overview of the document screen is on screen here. The ability to upload documents, store any Simple Fund 360 report packs, view them, group them, as well as list them under particular account balances and have them displayed on that screen. Once again, I'm not going to go through all these points in detail, but let me give you a quick overview of the document screen itself. So here we have the document screen. Over the top is the different options for reports here. So we're in reports and documents, and we have the options for the different financial years. So if you were to select 2019 or any other financial year, there are no documents currently. But in 2020, we do actually have the contract notes that we use for those previous transactions that we matched there. On the left side, you'll see different account numbers. So there is various different ones going from the income range all the way to the investments and the clearing accounts here. And as you can see, there are 5 documents that are currently in shares in listed companies. This is because the contract notes have actually imported documents that have been entered into the document screen and been classified under 77600. So the contract notes does have that good interaction with the document screen, organizing those directly. But in the case where you upload documents and we're looking to classify those yourself, all you simply need to do is take any document, click and drag it to the left side, and then let go. And that will actually add it to that particular account. In terms of uploading documents, you can select upload on the top right and choose to select a particular financial year, or you can select that they exist over all financial years. That is the permanent option there. And the other thing to mention about the document screen is the settings that we have. One of them being the tags. So contract notes, you have the option to add different tags as you want. So I can add another random tag here to create just by typing that in. And those can actually be searched using the filter option up the top. So you can choose to filter by a particular tag that you have entered. You can also filter by document type, the person who uploaded the file, the document updated date, and the document status. So that can be incredibly useful for digital signing. And finally, the last option here is to attach permissions to particular documents. So if you wanted certain user roles to actually access these particular documents and no one else, that is done by the 3 buttons on the right side, and you can choose to attach permissions. From here, you actually will need to create a permission first, and you can do that via the settings screen. Here you can manage your tags, but there's also the option for permissions. So if you wanted to add a test permission here, we can do so by just simply typing that in and clicking create. There we go. So we've created that new permission, and then we can select roles this permission is related to. So let's say we only wanted people with the user role employee to access a certain file. We set up this permission with the user role employee. Now that that's been set up, we can go to that particular document, attach permission, and select that permission to attach. If you wanted to review those, you do need to go to the attach permission screen, and from there you can see the particular permission that has been attached. So that's a general outline for the document screen. Once again, I'll attach a link to the help articles that we have that outlines these particular functions in more details there. So finally, I do want to quickly just go through the one of the new updates that might be coming to Simple Fund 360 relatively soon, and that is Smart Docs by BGL. It was actually discussed in some of the earlier webinars today, but we're looking to update this so that it makes uploading documents as well as managing documents much easier in Simple Fund 360. What that entails is that each of your SMSFs or each of your different entities will have their own email. That way you can actually give this email to clients or anyone who needs to upload documents to this fund, and they can send documents to this email. Once that's completed, that will actually upload the documents to the document screen there, where it does actually interact with the smart matching screen. So the Smart Docs AI will recognize if some of these documents that are uploaded, for instance, a water bill, is related to a bank transaction that has been entered on the smart matching screen. And in that case, it will actually attach the document directly to that transaction so that you can review that and make sure it's correct. Now, what I mean by that is I'll just quickly show you the help article we have related to that is here. So this is Smart Docs by BGL. We do have the coming soon section just with some details relating to it. So each of the entities have their own unique email, which is shown on the fund dashboard. So that's that one shown there. And all you need to do is email files to this unique email address. And then if it's recognized in the smart matching screen, it will actually show that SD or Smart Docs icon on the smart matching screen. So for these ones here, then you can click on it and you can see the document is already automatically attached. So it's something to get excited about. It's definitely going to simplify the process of uploading documents and making sure transactions are correct. In terms of that, it just eliminates the middle ground required to go back to clients and request documents. You can simply just be like, this is the email. We need the document sent to this email. They can send it through, and then it'll appear in BGL for you there. So that is a quick outline of the Smart Docs screen. Once again, just linked to the Knowledge Center article down the bottom. And finally, just on this last slide, I do have some helpful links like I mentioned. So if you wanted to quickly review the smart matching screen or how I entered some of the data in the fast data entry, as well as Smart Docs by BGL, some matching rules, some other helpful links that you might come across if you're expecting some purchases and bank transactions to automatically match, as well as the document screen and some BGL links. So those are included in the slides as well, if you're looking to get some further information. But that does bring us to the end of the webinar. I'd like to thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. Hopefully you got something out of today's session. In terms of that, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in today, if you've hung around. But I'd like to thank you very much and hope you have a great rest of your day.